Good afternoon to all of our friends in the Atlantic region and beyond. I'd like to welcome you to our virtual event. My name is Stacy Montero, and I am the city manager at Cosentino, Manhattan, live here in our New York City showroom. I am thrilled that you are joining us on this special day for the unveiling and official launch of our new Loft collection by Cosentino. I am honored to have experts from prestigious architecture and design firms here with me for an interactive discussion on the new collection and overall design in general. I'm pleased to begin by introducing Mark Barak, whom I've had the pleasure of working with for several years now. Mark is the principal at DTLS Architecture in New York and an adjunct professor of architecture at Columbia University. He was born in Chicago, but spent time in North Carolina, Georgia, France, California, and finally New York. The bulk of his working experience has been on new construction in residential architecture for the firms of Skidmore, Owing and Merrill, and the Office of Design and Architecture. His projects range from furniture installation to community master planning. Mark is currently working on over 24 projects under construction throughout the New York City and Hudson area. A fun fact about Mark is that he is an avid runner. While living in Los Angeles, he worked as a running coach for Nike, which led him to become a marathon runner. Mark's philosophy is that having integrity of work is of paramount importance. Thank you for joining us, Mark.
Thank you.
And next, I'd like to introduce Katie Gillespie, an interior designer currently with Rockwell Group in New York City. Her past work experiences have taken her from San Francisco to Singapore, where she's developed a passion for hospitality design and a focus on finishes and furniture. Her most recent project, Rockwell Group's Pro Bono Dine Out New York City initiative, brought outdoor dining to New York City's hardest hit neighborhoods in all 5 boroughs and paved the way for thousands of restaurateurs to open outdoor dining under new regulations, which is incredibly important during these days. With a continued focus on the hospitality sector, Katie aims to incorporate the latest in materials, technology, and today's changing needs into design. Thank you, Katie, for everything you've done for us.
Thank you, Stacy.
And last but not least, I'd like to introduce Sara Negan, Senior Associate at FX Collaborative. Sara is a New York City-based architect, interior and planning design firm with over 15 years of experience. Sara is adept at a full range of projects from large multifamily residential buildings and landmark building conversions to interior office design. She uses her knowledge gained from one project to enhance the development of another, enabling her to respond dynamically to each client's professional needs. Sara served as project architect for the Greenwich Lane and is currently project architect and manager for Apex Place and project architect for the fit out of FX Collaborative's new office at 1 Willoughby Square in Brooklyn, where Cosentino has supplied material for 3 kitchens and 1 mother's room with fabrication from our partners at Stone Systems of New Jersey. In addition to being a practicing architect, Sara serves as co-chair on FX Women, the firm's women-focused employee resource group. She is passionate about the fight for equality and inclusion within the AEC industry. Sara was recently named as one of Professional Women in Construction's 2020 40 Under 40 Outstanding Women in Construction. Quite the impressive resume. Welcome again to you all, and thank you for being here with us today. I know you each have busy schedules, so we're extremely appreciative of your time. So let's begin. Since we aren't able to travel as freely or as often as we'd like these days, we will show you this new collection in a different way. Many of you have been at home for some time, so we'd like to mix it up and take you on a virtual trip around the world with us. Today, we are going to travel together through 5 cities that are the inspiration for our Loft series.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, with that great introduction to our trip, we're going to be making a stop at each city to discover the inspiration behind these beautiful colors. This collection is a result of 3 years of dedicated innovation and effort by our product team. The Loft series includes 5 new colors inspired by concrete, creating emotions through textures, finishes, and shades, forming a new relationship between people and objects, where materials come to life in their rawest form. With this collection, we are confident Silestone is stepping forward as the most innovative brand in the surfacing industry. Loft, as an architectural space, is a concept that was born in the middle of the 20th century, where some neighborhoods right here in New York, full of small factories and warehouses in the Seaport area, were given a second life for housing and living spaces. Then, at that time, the concrete and iron beams gave relevance to a new trend. In a way, we can say that Loft is a trip to rediscover the essence of some neighborhoods in different cities. These are cool spaces characterized by an urban minimalism with an industrial aesthetic and with a fresh light that led to more social activity than ever. Loft is an urban collection that revisits the essence of 5 iconic neighborhoods in the cities of London, Barcelona, New York, and Detroit, but through a design lens. Our first stop is the vibrant and popular city of Camden in London. Okay, as you saw, Camden sounds like 80s punk, speaks hundreds of languages, dresses eclectically, and is home to hundreds of emerging artists. Posters and works of art are part of Camden's history, and they decorate the facades of exposed brick. Rusty tones, steely shades, and the wear and tear of living spaces have inspired our Camden, a soft, delicate, homogeneous gray with a fine grain and very subtle white veining. It is a versatile, adaptable color, easy to incorporate with any decoration thanks to its flexibility, making it perfect for everyday designs. From London, we are traveling to the Mediterranean seaside of Barcelona. Our next destination is Poblenou, but given today's weather, that sounds even more like a dream. Poblenou was the epicenter of the Industrial Revolution in Barcelona, and it has grown significantly. Its contrasts have become the main attraction for locals and travelers. Poblenou has Mediterranean warmth with an industrial appearance. It is cosmopolitan, yet suburban. It's family-friendly and also multicultural. The old industrial buildings have been turned into fabulous lofts surrounded by art galleries, bars, pop-up shops, corner shops, and emerging businesses. Bikes move freely around its wide streets. You can attend an exhibition and then go shopping at one of the local stores. Poblenou has a warm, smooth shade of gray with very subtle veins on its surface, a matte color that reminds us of Mediterranean sand. It is the ideal tone to use in a day-to-day family setting. From Barcelona, we are now going to travel across the Atlantic to our next destination, my hometown of New York. Seaport is an industrial Navy area with a famous past of maritime trade. Let's go to Seaport. Visiting Seaport is like traveling through time, back to an era where maritime trade was the key player in a small but crucial area for the economic future of New York. Many of its buildings still retain the essence of the 19th century. Low buildings with exposed bricks, worn concrete, and characteristic wood from the docks form a chromatic range that inspires this silestone dark gray. Seaport is a complex gray full of possibilities. It recreates a dark cement color with a worn charm. Its hazy white shade makes it a unique proposition. It is an eccentric color for sure, with personality, ready to satisfy the most discerning preferences, which sounds like most New Yorkers, to be honest. And now we're going to take a quick subway ride to the iconic New York area of Nolita. Nolita was avant-garde when it was part of Little Italy and when it unsuccessfully tried to join Soho. In the mid-90s, Nolita found its name, north of Little Italy, and an identity with elements that made it unique. We're talking about distinctive locales, totally different from each other. First, there is the Basilica of St. Patrick's Old Cathedral in 1808, then the New Museum, a building in the shape of a huge sugar cube, home to exclusive contemporary works of art. The authentic and revolutionary streets differentiate the area from the surrounding neighborhoods. With this historical background in mind, we have recreated our very own Nolita. Nolita has a white background with interesting variations of neutral gray tones. It combines especially well with open spaces, a sanctuary for purity and calm, walking hand in hand with art and avant-garde. We have reached our final destination now in Detroit. Corktown has an intellectual touch, evoking old world style. Let's go to Corktown. Corktown grew up among steam, pistons, and the sound of engines. It soon became representative of the American dream. It was successful and business was booming. And then disaster struck, kind of like 2020. Even so, a few decades ago, it came back with a renewed beauty and an interesting and intellectual old style. It is worth walking by the Fox Theater or the Michigan Central Train Depot to imagine its former industrial splendor. Our Corktown has been inspired by the light and shadows of Detroit's most legendary neighborhood to create an intense black in the series. Elegance is the key to this black tone, with subtle brown touches and an extra matte finish. The effects of Corktown are reminiscent of surfaces that have experienced the passage of time, ideal for exclusive and elegant environments where every detail counts. All of the colors in this Loft collection boast a beautiful ultra matte finish and an exciting new manufacturing technology. Now that we have toured all the cities, have any of you visited the other three outside of Seaport and Nolita in New York?
Yes, I love Pueblo New. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Nice.
They're all great areas.
Yeah.
I'd love to go anywhere right about now.
Yes.
So I am with you. Next, I'd like to talk about our new Hybric technology that can be found in all 5 of these new colors. Hybric Plus is a groundbreaking, pioneering innovation that's exclusive to Cosentino. With development 3 years in the making, it is a technological innovation that's incorporated into Silestone to elevate engineered surfaces to a new state with more sustainability, a more environmental production process, and more beauty and design possibilities. Hybric brings a great contribution to the health and safety conditions for the people who work with the product, like stonemasons and fabricators. This is due to the reduction of the silica level in the silestone composition and the presence of an assortment of minerals and recycled materials to achieve that same quality that silestone guarantees. This is a new era for silestone, as from now on, every series that we launch into the market will incorporate Hybric and Hybric Plus technology. We at Cosentino are proud of our contribution to the environment. We have a zero carbon footprint induction, and it's now time for silestone to follow suit. We implemented this Hybric technology with a lot of research, resources, and a large investment. We wanted to get it right because it's simply the right thing to do. The result is a true testament to our commitment to be leaders of sustainability in our industry. Hybric contains a maximum of 10% silica, making it considerably safer for the manufacturers, stonemasons, and anyone who works with the stone. It has a lesser impact to the environment as we manufacture it with 19% reduced water, and all energy used is renewable energy. Hybric Plus shares all the same values of Hybric. In addition, we include at least 20% of recycled material glass in the composition of the product. This has been applied to Loft and will be applied to all silestone colors going forward. We are very proud of the results, including safety, sustainability, and the legacy to our future generations. Our panelists and I would like to now share some design tips on how you can use these colors to create unique spaces. Each of our panelists have chosen their favorites, and we will begin with Mark and the color Camden.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I was really excited to talk about this because a lot of our clients come to us and they say, I love the look of concrete. And I have to put it in parentheses because what they think of as concrete and what we as architects think of as concrete are two dramatically different things. In reality, real concrete, you have to cast it on site. There's inconsistencies in the aggregate. Even the highest countertop mix, you still have differentiation amongst the pour. And then, of course, the worst thing is that it requires long-term maintenance. And even with the best of care, it'll eventually start to stain. What they really want is a concrete look. And that's a lot easier to explain to someone when they actually see the piece of material. And with this Camden material, it is as close to concrete as one could ever dream in terms of what we would ideally view concrete as. The other thing that is a really great thing about using a product like this is that it's very versatile in how you want to pair it with the rest of the design. It can pair well with metals, with woods. It ends up becoming a good crowd pleaser. Oftentimes, we use countertops or backsplashes as the glue that holds together a lot of elements throughout a kitchen. And you want to make sure that it's not going to detract from the overall experience. That's why going with a material like this, it gives you the versatility you need as a designer and also the durability you need as an advocate for your clients to make sure that it will look great when it's installed and look great 20 years later. It's a very exciting thing to be able to use.
Thank you so much, Mark, for that interesting take on how to incorporate Camden into residential design. Next up, we are going to be showing a quick video on all of those tips that you just mentioned to us. And now we have Sara, who's going to give us some tips about how to incorporate Poblano into design for large multifamily residential buildings, landmark building conversions, and interior office design. Sara?
Sure. It's really great to be here. I'm so excited to see all of you and be a part of the Loft launch. When I first received the samples for the Poblano of the Loft series and saw the Poblano, that's actually the one that I leaned towards right off the bat, and I loved how warm and engaging it was, but it also had that really amazing blend of taking it not just from this warm aesthetic, but also very clean and versatile. When I first looked at it, I really loved the idea of using this as like a backsplash and a countertop in a kitchen, because it would work so well with like walnut floors, and it'd be able to take it to from like this loft aesthetic to like this cozy loft, and not so like cold that certain loft designs could be. It also works well with such a variety of materials, where you're looking at some wood aesthetics. It would go great with like a core 10 accents, like metal accents in the space, whether it be from furniture or like the rear side of an island. So it's just such a fun material that could really work well in so many different ways.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I can't wait to see some of the designs that come to life with that vision. We're now going to go to a quick video with some of the design tips on how to incorporate Poblano. For our New York City inspired colors, Seaport and Nolita, Katie and Sarah will share their design tips on how to incorporate these styles for residential, hospitality, and furniture design. We're going to start with you, Katie.
Thank you, Stacy. And just quickly want to say congratulations to Cosentino, the entire team, for this product launch, especially during this kind of difficult time. It's really great to see companies adapt to, releasing something in this more difficult setting, but really getting the product and message out there is great. So taking a little bit of a deeper look at this Seaport material, it's a little bit now going towards a darker medium gray, which is a really nice base for a palette of any sort, whether it be commercial or residential. But it has this really nice texture to it, which also gives it a little bit of character, a little bit of interest. So I could see this, much like the Seaport in New York today, being used in a lot of buzzy food and beverage, retail situations, loft as well, some residential use. It really speaks to that kind of weathered look of that neighborhood and that character of this kind of seaside area. Mostly in commercial aspects, I could see it being used definitely as bar tops, as tabletops. You definitely want to see and touch it as a user because it has this kind of visual interest and comfort and warmth. I think that little bit of touch of warm gray also kind of brings it into a much more comforting and warm and inviting look that sometimes industrial skews the other way a little bit, but this kind of brings it into a warmth that's very inviting for users as well.
I completely agree, and Seaport's actually my favorite color out of the entire collection. We are going to go to a quick video on Seaport. And now we're back to you, Sarah. Do you want to take it away with Nolita?
Sure, I'd love to. Nolita is like, it has this really soft beigey undertone. And what I really liked about it is that I was actually describing it to the panelists and Stacey a little earlier, is that it's really calm and super, it feels kind of spacious. And I'd love to use it in the bathroom with like super large format on the walls and have it kind of blend in from the walls to like the tub surrounds and doing like this really soft mosaic on the floors. It's something you almost kind of want to be bathed by because it's so warm and calming. And that's in a residential setting and in an office setting. Actually, I think it would be really beautiful as lobby walls. It's this really great accent that has just enough movement in it that it doesn't shy away from being a backdrop to really beautiful art pieces that could be mounted on top of it.
Thank you, Sarah. We're going to go to the video for Nolita. And last but not least, we have Corktown, and Mark will take it away with some tips on how to incorporate this color into residential designs.
Yes. When it comes to using a darker countertop, it often requires a little bit of back and forth with the client. They always tend to gravitate towards something that's on the lighter side, whether that means it's monolithic, like the Camden, or if it's just going with a marble substitute, so that it creates a certain sort of ease and contention throughout the rest of the kitchen. But what's amazing about this is it's not just strictly black like certain types of granite. The grays really read well. It creates more of a layered effect, similar to soapstone, but without all the maintenance that goes along with it. The other thing that I'd like to point out about this material is that it creates enough variety in its texture and enough variety in its color pattern that you could think about adding this into a traditional space or a contemporary space. It's quite versatile.
Thank you for that, Mark. We're going to take a look at how to style. Now that we've gotten a chance to review all of the colors and received some great design tips from our panelists, I'd love to get some feedback about the collection in general and the new HyBrick Plus technology. Let's begin with you, Katie.
Thank you, Stacey. As Mark said, I do want to touch on the kind of span of this entire collection where you have these deep, rich hues that lend to these kind of classic and beautifully warm color palettes, all the way to the opposite end, kind of this bright, rich, modern, fun kind of layered palette as well. So there's a really nice span of the 5 colors, and their versatility for layering is really outmatched, I think, more so than I've seen a lot of the products in the market do currently. So that's a wonderful, layering of detail into any project. I do want to touch as well on the renewed interest and continued interest rather of Cosentino's sustainability efforts. I think more and more we're seeing clients and even end users really value the importance of sustainability, safety from a viewpoint of fabrication. So the fact that this material is using natural minerals, recycled glass, having renewable energy within its manufacturing process, and just making a more wholesome and beginning to end sustainable materials really important. And it's actually makes it an easier sell to clients in the end, because they're always looking for that strong sustainability story. And Cosentino has given it to us very easily here with this product. So it's a wonderful translation to the final design. I do also want to comment that there's a beautiful integration of glass within this material as well. So that adds just the versatility of the product, whether it can be viewed as a countertop, bar top, but also backlit in vertical situations as well, to kind of add a new elegance and beauty to a product that we don't normally see in that kind of respect. So congratulations again to the team of the development of this product. It's really groundbreaking in terms of its sustainability and use within, I think, many different project applications.
Thank you so much, Katie. Sustainability is huge for us, and every little bit helps. We all need to be doing our part. While we are on the topic of sustainability, with our Hybrid Plus technology and clean manufacturing techniques for all Cosentino product lines, what approaches have your firms taken to be more socially conscious? Sara, I know that FX Collaborative is doing something very impactful with a manifesto on FX women. Would you like to elaborate on that?
So I'm not sure if everyone attending is fully aware, but FX Collaborative is really passionate about advocacy work. So we have several employee resource groups that advocate for women, minorities, and LGBTQ representation within our industry. We really feel that having representation by all these different parties really responds to and gives voices to everyone that's in the community, so that our industry also reflects the people that we designed for. Taking that into consideration, with FX Collaborative moving to Brooklyn, we really wanted to take the opportunity to ensure that as we're looking at our resource library, that we're also engaging and incorporating the socially conscious nature of that typically doesn't get paid attention to when you're looking at materials. So what we've decided to enact is that we actually have a library manifesto. So we're looking at the various materials that we're selecting and including in our library, and ensuring that they have the companies have a social justice component, that they're not using child labor, that they're being sourced properly, that they are also equally passionate and have put statements out about social justice and supportive of that aspect. Also looking at human health and well-being, like, do they publicly disclose material ingredients? Do they have health product declarations? Do they have declare certifications? And what is the life cycle of the material? Is it something that if it for some reason had to get removed, what would happen to it afterwards? Could it be recycled? Is there a take back program that it could be used for other locations? And of course, also sustainability. So once we saw that Cosentino has evolved this hybrid technology, it really is well suited for what we're looking for in our library. Like, it has high recycled content. It's used in the glass, like Katie had mentioned. That also, it's also using like local materials and just is sourced well. And it's really amazing to see how passionate Cosentino is, because it really ties into the passion and ethos of FX.
Thank you so much, Sara. I love that you guys are so responsible with finding materials to source that help give back to the community in some way. Moving into a more design industry related topic of conversation, I'd like to discuss the current best practices for doing business present day. Let's start with you, Mark. You mentioned the other day in passing that as a designer and architect, you're very conscious about your surroundings and location when taking virtual calls. Could you tell us a little bit more about this and some other tips?
Yeah, it's something that I'm sure a lot of people have experienced over the last 6 months, but when you're having a digital meeting, it's very tempting just to peer behind the speaker and look at their setting. And it really defines a lot about the way you think about the person who's talking based on what's behind them. If you have a bunch of baby Yodas behind you, it really makes a big statement. If you have a bookcase full of leather-bound books, that also makes a big statement. And kind of taking that on as a tangent, people have spent a lot of time thinking about their home over the last 6 months, because never in the history of our lives we spent so much time in our homes. And because of that, people have really become educated on what they like and what they don't like in terms of their taste. And thanks to a wealth of information such as Pinterest, Houzz, information sessions like this, or us as designers and architects, we can really help educate our clients and steer them in the right direction. At our firm, we don't have a single design ethos, but we do have a design stance, which is that our client, they tell us their preferences, and then we make sure we hit the mark. In other words, they're the captains, we make sure they don't hit an iceberg. And because of that, our work can be very diverse. We can be working on a pre-war traditional building one day and a downtown loft the next day. And we look for materials that can cross-pollinate amongst a lot of different design genres. We also look for a level of quality and quality control that can translate across design genres, so that we can feel comfortable when we're talking to a client that if we're recommending something, if our clients have enough faith in our experience and our responsibility, that we will recommend something that they'll be happy with over the long haul. And that's why when you think about durability for any of these products, and also since we've talked about the ecological aspects, knowing that it's going to create a sustainable and healthy environment is definitely more appealing.
Thank you, Mark. You're absolutely correct. I love that your firm has such a diverse range of projects, going from very modern to traditional. I think it's great that you're able to diversify like that. And I also have a lot of baby Yodas at home too, so you're not alone.
I also want to compliment everyone who's got very nice backgrounds today. So for Stacy and Katie and Sarah, you guys are all doing a wonderful job with your backgrounds.
You are too.
If you watch too much cable news, you'll start seeing some questionable backgrounds. But
that's only because I'm not at home, Mark. If I was at home, you'd be looking at a completely different background. Speaking of diversification, you each have a focus on different segments within the architecture and design industry, from residential to hospitality and contract and commercial. Can you discuss the biggest impact you have seen in your different sectors and how you're addressing this fact? Like, what are some of the industry-specific changes you've identified, or are there any challenges or trends you want to talk about? Katie, do you want to start?
Sure. I think one of the biggest aspects that's changed in design is how people collaborate, not just within their own firms and their own teams, but also with clients, kind of communicating the design. So, our day-to-day has certainly changed, right? We're sitting in front of computers, collaborating virtually, which has its advantages and disadvantages, but it's certainly been a learning curve, I think, for everyone, for every firm, to understand how to utilize technology in a much more in-depth and personal way, as we're using it all day, every day. But I think it's also been a challenge to still develop those really vital relationships with clients. You're not seeing them face to face. Sometimes you're not holding the materials with them. That's been a really big challenge of my personal experience these past couple of months. I'm such a tactile person. I love to feel, to create palettes, layered, items and materials together. So, through technology, we can still do that. I think it's just been a bit more of a challenging discussion to have with clients, and personally walking them through floor plans, things like that. But I think as we have gone along, we've all learned to adapt a little bit more, as the days go by. And then in terms of how actual projects have changed, I think we're still doing and seeing the same types of projects come in. People are still hopeful about the future, creating commercial spaces, restaurants, bars, where we all hope to soon get together again. But there has been certainly consideration of how to develop those and how to see that into the future. Recently, we just completed a project here in New York City, bringing outdoor dining to a whole host of neighborhoods and restaurants within New York City, all 5 boroughs. So how to develop a safe environment, again, for dining and for socializing, how to bring a personal touch to outdoor dining when sometimes New York City streets are a little not as inviting as we'd want them to be. So layering in some, beautiful furniture, finishes, lighting, plants, to kind of give this beautiful ambiance that I think we were all missing a little bit. But that's been a really, really interesting development and challenge for, I think, the design industry as a whole, how to engage that community, how to bring us back to kind of where we were before, but certainly be very socially conscious of how we're developing and providing those spaces.
I'm so glad to hear that people are still really hopeful. And I mean, outdoor dining is here to stay. It's not going to go anywhere. I don't know. It adds kind of like a charming touch to our usually cold city sometimes.
I want to jump in and say how much I appreciate the work that Katie's firm has done. A lot of firms have been contributing in different restaurants, and yes. I wouldn't be surprised if next year there's a certain award ceremony prize that goes towards the best outdoor restaurant and who has managed to make the most out of 8 feet width of space, because it's really impressive.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been a learning curve and a real opportunity for growth and to give back to New York City, because it's given a lot to Rockwell Group and everyone who works there. So it's been a very rewarding yet challenging installation.
You're helping us all keep happy and sane during this really tricky time with the outdoor dining. So thank you. Mark, would you like to add anything?
Actually, I think Katie did such a good job of talking about the new way we have to communicate with our clients. Yeah. The only thing I'd like to add is that we are still working, and in some situations, our clients may be in other states. So we've really had to rely on our collaborators all across the design and construction process to work seamlessly with us. And whether that means getting material samples sent directly to the client or having virtual meetings with contractors, everybody has had to really roll up their sleeves and be smart and responsible at key points throughout the project to make sure that the entire team is fully aware of what's going on. We had a project that was 3/4 of the way done, and the clients came into the city. It was the first time they'd even met the contractor. And it was such a funny thing that normally you have this day-to-day connection, and the fact that we had to rely strictly on digital relationships. But we've been very lucky so far, and we hope to keep that trend going.
I'm glad that it's been going well for you. I mean, I know it's really hard, especially with some of the nuances that kind of get lost when it's digital. And like Katie, I'm also a touch and feel type of person. So I can't even imagine how hard it is for you guys to be sourcing materials that sometimes you're not able to see physically. Sara, did you have anything that you wanted to add to this?
Yeah, like Mark and Katie have done such a great job about introing and talk about like the virtual nature of it, and Mark with talk about how much trust we have to have with our consultants and our CM and our clients, because we're not seeing things in person together. It makes it that much more difficult. I had mentioned to the team earlier is that with the office moving, we had actually never seen our workstations prior to them being constructed. So we had 172 workstations that we ended up having a really great experience, and the product is amazing, but we didn't get to see beforehand. One thing I did want to touch on is that with the pandemic and people being much more health conscious now and trying to be aware of our surroundings within the design field and design, as we're designing these spaces, people are more aware, and especially my FX's developer clients are more aware of how do we incorporate a more sustainable and spacious feel and safe environment within our building lobbies. Like how do we allow for like a 6-foot distance when someone's receiving a package, or someone's picking up takeout, or they're just passing through to get to the elevator. As we all know, New York is very space tight, and we hadn't had to think about those things and take it into real consideration. And now we kind of do, because of our experiences for about 6 to 8 months, or however this is going to last. And even in residential design, when we're looking at layouts, like, is there a space where we need more storage because people are just taking on more things? And when you're entering an apartment, is there a space where you can just unload all your contaminated clothing or bags and what have you before it gets into the rest of the apartment? And these are just things that people are considering that we as designers also have to factor in.
That is a really good point. I haven't even thought about that. You're right. When we're picking up in the lobby of our building packages or delivery, how is that being managed safely?
It's difficult.
There's no space, which kind of leads me to my next question. There is a mass exodus taking place in New York right now. Everyone is leaving. So, Mark, for example, how are you handling the evolving market and the shift in people relocating out of big cities? Like, are you seeing that there's a certain location in the suburbs where people are now buying properties? Or are they just doing Airbnbs until this is all over and hunkering down in like the middle of the woods somewhere?
Well, picking up on what Sara is saying, is there's a short-term thing, which is what people are doing to get through the next 6 months. But then we can also think about long-term changes and long-term lifestyle changes. And yes, there was certainly a mass exodus throughout the summer. And because of that, a lot of our business focused towards projects outside of the city, whether it was renovations of homes or new construction of homes. But in the fall, we saw that people started coming back. And I think that that's a real signal to the vitality of New York City. And as people have started coming back, they've started doing projects in the city. And it's really great to see. Now, when we think about long-term, I think that people working from home part of the week is going to become more and more the norm. That means that within an apartment, you may want to think about having a study space that's off to the side. And that has a profound ripple effect throughout the way that the city functions. Meaning, how does the Department of Buildings view a space that's 6 feet by 6 feet? Is that a habitable space, or is it just a souped up storage spot? And because of that, we're working with the DOB on how to really define these spaces and how to get the correct air and ventilation through these spaces.
Thank you for that, Mark.
Sorry, I was just getting a knock on my door from my daughter. That's why I had to cut off right away. It's a given whenever you do these things, guys. There's going to be a cat or a dog.
I have cat, two little boys, so I get it. How are you guys finding new business? Are there certain segments or locations where you're seeing a new demand and increase in new projects? Are you using social media, for example? Sara, do you want to take this one?
Sure. I think it really depends on the type of project. I think during the summer, there was a bit of a hold on a lot of new projects because we just weren't sure where the market was going with anything. I think we're in such a atypical time that it was really hard to predict how people were feeling and how they wanted to respond. What we've noticed is that during the summer, especially there was a bit of a reduction in funding for public projects and affordable housing projects. So those kind of went on hold, but now in the fall, especially with the new administration coming in, people are feeling much more secure with proceeding with especially affordable housing projects. That we are seeing an uptake in that. What we've been using is we've been using LinkedIn. I think there are different events where you can do a sort of happy hour schmoozing type thing. But what FX has been really lucky with is that we have a really great reputation that people have responded to, that they know that when they come to our firm, whether it be for cultural or affordable housing projects, or multifamily or residential, like they are getting a really great experience and a great quality product that has definitely helped us out. That we have a certain connotation in within the industry.
That's great. I'm so happy to hear that. And we have also been noticing that there are extensive delays in interior items such as appliances, furniture, and cabinetry. How are you finding timelines are changing, and how are you navigating around this? Mark, you were in the showroom quite recently, and we were talking about cabinets being severe, and appliances too, like dishwashers, being completely delayed. How are you handling this?
I think that's a really interesting and valid point. Towards the end of the summer, we realized that things that we'd taken for granted, such as being able to get a refrigerator within 2 or 3 days, were taking months. So what we've started doing is having a lot more purchasing in advance. So we can store things via certain warehouses in Brooklyn and Queens. And we usually encourage our clients to pre-purchase a lot of their materials. This goes all across the board, whether we're talking about flooring, countertops. It's never a given that if a product is in stock today, that 3 months later when you're under construction, it'll be in stock. We've been able to work with our contractors to help create designated storage facilities. And a lot of times we have everything on site or in a remote storage facility before we knock down the first wall. It's been incredibly convenient. And even though there's a small expense associated with it, ultimately you save time in the long run because there's no waiting for materials.
That makes a lot of sense.
I just wanted to add one thing to that. What I've also seen on a few projects is that there's a level of adaptability that has to be that you have to be kind of open to, with everything being so unruly, and sometimes as much as we'd like to plan in advance and hope that things kind of work out in storing materials, and things have to get shifted, whether it be with scheduling or delays and what have you. So being open to choosing alternates that could be available has been helpful, especially with our office project. That's definitely happened.
Absolutely. Flexibility is key for sure. We've been taught anything during this time, it's patience. And being that we are no longer able to attend industry events such as Maison AMG, Milan Expo, ICFF, KBIS, and so on, how are you sourcing new materials or getting design inspiration digitally? You can't just walk a trade show anymore. What are you finding is working and what's not? Katie, do you want to take this one?
Sure. I'd say I think what we all know is that online sources are really crucial, especially during this time. You know, everything from our usual online haunts like Pinterest, Design Milk, kind of getting the latest news or maybe finding something you missed previously. That's been very, very helpful. I'd say that certainly I personally have used a lot of online sources for ordering materials, such as Material Bank. Having that, in particular, that option that gets me the materials the next day where I can kind of build the palette very quickly if need be, has been really, really vital to a lot of our current projects going on. And that also does connect you with the local reps who you need to speak with and kind of coordinate with. So that has been really a nice opportunity. So ordering everything from tiles, wall coverings, even being able to sort by its sustainable features has been a really, really nice aspect to Material Bank in particular. But I think during this time, it's also been really crucial to stay connected with representatives of different companies, have a continual conversation. They'll send me, news about what's new, product launches like this, are educating designers and architects about what's, still coming out and what's available, kind of hot off the press. But it's also been on the flip side too, where reps will email me following up with projects that maybe still be on hold or, might not come back or are questionable. But I say, hey, while we're talking about that one, I have this new project. So let's talk about some opportunity for that. So, building those relationships, kind of doing your own little deep dive into the internet for some new inspiration is always crucial.
I love that you brought up Material Bank. That is, I am actually quite fascinated by the way they're able to get everybody's samples within, I think it's like overnight. And it's also sustainable too. And the package is the same one that you'd use to send back anything you didn't like. I think it's such a wonderful concept and a huge lifesaver for anybody that's working on tight deadlines for sure. Thank you for that, Katie.
Thank you.
And we are excited to hear from our viewers, and we've received a couple of questions already, so let's move into our Q&A portion of the event. The first question is, are you working back in your offices? And if so, are you allowing suppliers to visit and update your sample libraries?
I'd say from a perspective of Rockwell Group, we are having a couple of people into the office every day. I believe we're up to maybe 25% capacity, somewhere around that number, give and take. But I personally have been into the office a few times, still working from home the majority of the time. In terms of rep visits, it's really, we're not allowing that at the moment just because there's not even really enough designers in the office to come and learn about the new products. So we still prefer to do that digitally, but I know designers are very open to receiving samples, requesting samples still all the time. So that's how we've been dealing with it currently.
Yeah. FX is in a bit of a different spot since our space is still under construction. We had intended to move in at this point, but we are still all working from home, and people, maybe like 2 to 3 people, are going in and out of the office at any given day. But yeah, we're also not allowing materials reps within the library. It's semi half packaged up right now, but also because there aren't enough designers in that space to use it and keep it up to date as we'd like.
And for us, we're a much smaller office than Rockwell Group or FX. And we have a general policy that if people don't want to come in, they don't have to. But any given day, there's 1 or 2 people in the office. And while we do accept deliveries, we haven't had any large format presentations. It's just a little bit of the practicality of it. And also, as numbers are going up, we're going to rely a lot more heavily on having stuff mailed and delivered.
Understandably so. I don't blame you all at all. You're doing what's right to keep everybody safe.
I do want to jump in though, since Stacy and I have a relationship that has been working pretty fluidly. In some situations, our clients do feel comfortable coming into the city, and they do feel comfortable going to showrooms. And while nothing can compete with actually seeing a large slab in person and going to the showroom, we have a lot of clients who are remote. And what we've ended up doing is we create a sort of dialogue between us, Stacy, and the client, in which we'll discuss the design intent. The client will discuss their preferences, and then Stacy can have materials sent directly to them. And this is something that we've seen all across the board. We rely more than ever on experts. And we may look at something on a website and think it's the right finish, but if somebody's better acquainted with the product, they'll be able to tell us, no, I think this is a better way to go. And 9 times out of 10, they're right. And our clients really appreciate it because it's hard to make any sort of a personal connection in this sort of environment. But having a nice email thread and easy dialogue with quick responses makes the whole experience enjoyable and fun for our clients. And we appreciate that too.
Thank you so much, Mark. It's always a pleasure working with you. You know that. You make it easy for me.
I don't know if you guys hear this, but now I've got a cat banging on the door. So it's like there's just something.
He's telling us it's time. It's like when they play music.
It's the joys of working from home. One funny thing that we're all enjoying working from home. And then hopefully at a certain point, we'll all get to come back into the office. And there's always going to be a few people who are still going to prefer working from home. But there's only going to be so long that people will allow for Zoom call interruptions before they're like, you know what, you got to get back in the office. And then the city is going to be back to 100%. We get like a 1-year buffer in which they'll allow people to work from home before everyone gets fed up with poor internet connections and Yoda in the background.
Everyone better enjoy wearing those pajamas on the bottom half since you Can't see her currently. Well, at last. Before we come to a close, I want to give you each a minute to say anything you want to say. Any messages you have for us, like keep your masks on, people, anything you want to say. I'd like to start with you, Katie.
Sure. I think that's a very good sentiment to start. Please wear your mask. But I think something I've been really, I don't know, has become important to me is a focus on your local community, right? Building relationships with people in your community, using local artisans, local craftsmen, locally source as much as you can. I think that's been a really well-taught lesson during this. Get to know your neighbors. We're all in this together. So it's a group effort, and your community is very important.
Absolutely. And Sarah, is there anything that you'd like to say before we close this down?
Definitely. I'd love to just mention how this whole experience of, especially this year with everything, not just the pandemic, but everything that's going on, that it's really a testament to the resiliency and the versatility of our industry. You see that everyone's like Katie had mentioned, like we're all supporting one another. We're more understanding of each other and like the issues that we're facing, whether it's a kid or a cat knocking on the door, but also looking at different ways of how we can interact with each other. That's what I think everyone seems to miss the most, is that personal interaction, but we're all trying to find different ways to do that, whether it's how to pick the best material or how to like build a relationship with a client or just build a better rapport with our colleagues too, as we're all working from home. I think seeing everyone's strength and versatility, especially in New York City, of course, it's been really amazing to see how we've all come together.
Thank you. And Mark?
Of course. Well, I can't say anything better than what Katie and Sarah have already said. So I want to just say thank you to all three of you for a really interesting and fun conversation. And I also just want to say that I really love New York City, and never have I had so much pride and love for New York as I do now. And I'm glad that so many other people feel the same way. So thank you guys for taking an hour to be with us.
We're definitely New York strong. And I would love to get together with the three of you for a virtual happy hour sometime, or we can dish.
Sounds like a great
Anytime.
plan. Yeah. Whenever the fit out is done, I'm gonna try to have all you guys out on our terrace. Okay, drinks and tapas on the terrace.
I have no problem wearing my mask with a straw underneath it. I'm so there, I'm telling you.
Yes.
Wine from a straw is going to be big in 2021. Like,
So,
it's just gonna be,
so happy. That is the trend. Well, again, I am so happy that I got to spend this time with you guys and that you graced us with your presence, really. It's been such a pleasure. We're now coming towards the end of our virtual event. And I want to share that these colors are now all available to be viewed at our Cosentino centers and city centers. As Mark said, I am here every day, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Come visit me because I'm all alone. And we invite you to also have a virtual tour if you're not comfortable coming in person, because we understand. We know how it is. I would like to thank you guys, our special guests, for joining us, and also to our viewers for taking the time to listen to us. We hope you're as excited as we are about this new collection, and that you enjoyed the mini virtual travel expedition. That was our first time doing that, so who knows, maybe there's a new trend that we just started with virtual travel. And we hope to see you again very soon, and that everybody stays safe. And remember to love the city and loft your home. Have a wonderful afternoon, everyone. And don't forget to follow Mark, Katie, and Sarah on Instagram. Visit their websites. If you have any questions, shoot us an email at manhattan@cosentino.com, and we'll connect you to them. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.